I'm a father now, responsibility.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Sorry, Steve Carell. Hello, I'm Jacqueline Coley. Welcome to Seen on the Screen from Make It Universal and Rotten Tomatoes. We sit down with the people behind the stories that move us and ask, what have you seen on the screen that made an impact? My guest today is the president of music and publishing for NBC Universal, Mike Knobloch. Mike, welcome to Seen on the Screen.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
So first question, the most important, who are you and what do you do for NBC Universal?
It's like a deep existential question.
At this point, yes.
I am Mike Knobloch. I'm the president of music and publishing for NBC Universal. My main day job is I oversee music and soundtracks for all of our films. That's column A, and then column B is everything else, including overseeing the administration of our publishing catalog, which is nearly a century of titles, both on the film and TV side.
Wow.
That's a nice revenue generator for us.
And
then all kinds of other stuff, but mostly we make movies and music and soundtracks.
I know at Universal Pictures, they love a score, they love a needle drop. And I think for you, a lot of times it's people being like, hey, we want this. And you being like, well, that's not going to be as easy as we would like.
My brand is to say yes and to facilitate and not take no for an answer.
What has been the most gratifying one that you were able to get somebody to say yes to?
The one that popped into my head when you asked was on the first Sing movie, which is Illumination's movie Sing, which is we love all our children equally, but that's a very special one because those two movies are very much like a love letter to music. And so on the first one, we relentlessly chased Stevie Wonder. And we finally got Stevie to come in and cut the end title song called Faith for that movie, which was him and Ariana Grande, and it was written, produced by Ryan Tedder and a handful of other writers, and that ended up being like a really, really special one, and a special experience to literally have a legend like Stevie cut a song for one of our movies.
I love it. What was that sort of journey for you? Because again, this is that job that you hear about afterwards and you think to yourself, well, how do you reverse engineer that? That seems like a lot of things that came together to make it happen. So yeah, what was the inception point?
Because I grew up, I guess, in like the dark ages compared to today, we didn't have access. I didn't know this was a job. I didn't know this was a thing. And I certainly didn't know if I was going to pursue a career in show business, like how that even works. So I grew up in New York. I went to Northwestern outside Chicago and was a theater major there. And then just very serendipitously had an opportunity to come out here and in a just kind of crazy confluence of circumstances, got a job on a movie. And then that really became like my grad school, like my boot camp in terms of like having access, seeing in person. Now you have everything you need to know, everything you need to see, all kinds of access, like literally in your hands. But way back when, to understand what went on in the room, you kind of had to like be in the room. It was literally that expression, like getting a foot in the door. You had to get all the way through the door and be in the room. So for me, it was that first job as a production assistant on a movie. And it was very specifically like seeing the music get made for the film was like, that was a very singular, like, aha moment for me, was like, wait a second, this exists? This is a thing? This is a thing people do and make a living? And just seeing all of the, even in that little corner of the movie, seeing all of the roles, all the people that come together from, there's somebody cutting songs into the movie, the music editor, there's a composer writing the score. In that case, it was Alan Silvestri, who's, a legend, Back to the Future and the Castaway and, Zemeckis' guy and all kinds of amazing stuff that Alan's done, Night at the Museum, on and on. So, seeing him on the podium, and there's orchestrators and there's musicians and there's technical people and there's business people, and just, I intimately understood everything that was going on. It was like literally like I didn't even know there was like this language locked in my brain, and somebody like dropped me on this island where everybody only speaks this language, and all of a sudden I'm fluent, and these are my people and this is my language, and I just want to be immersed in this. I want to be around this as much as possible.
Oh, I love that journey. Well, let's see if we can go on that journey through some of the things that you've seen on the screen. I'm the king of the world.
Well, that's Titanic.
You
can't even say that and not think of Titanic.
I know. It's very that. Yeah. So what's your history with Titanic, just as a fan, or was this also something where you were working on as well?
Sure. Well, the first job that I got where it really put me at, sort of the center of music and movies was I got a job in the music department at 20th Century Fox. And I worked there for about 14 years. And my tenure there was pretty much bookended by Titanic and Avatar. Titanic was among one of the first movies that I got to work on. And so it was like, at the time, it was a scary experience because it was, over budget, and it was, for a long time before it came out, is like, this is the movie that's going to put Fox out of business. Fox almost went out of business, when they made Cleopatra, which at the time was the most expensive movie ever made. And the studio stayed afloat by selling off land to Los Angeles. That's how Century City became Century City from 20th Century Fox. So this was going to be the final nail in the coffin for Fox. Titanic was going to put Fox out of business. So it was really high stakes, high pressure, high responsibility, high accountability, and but also being in a room with like legendary people. James Cameron, James Horner, rest in peace, who was a legend and gone too soon, and all of that. But just to be somebody in the room who had a particular role and responsibility in making it happen. It was just, it was like a life-changing experience.
And for folks that don't know now, especially I think now that movie soundtracks have even like had their like heyday and then whatever, Titanic was singular because it was the score. It wasn't like album hits. Like I think the Celine song and maybe like that one girl singing over the instrumental were the only two like voices on that.
Right.
And it sold like the Beatles. Like that was a high. Like, I think it broke every record for a movie score soundtrack that was out at the time.
There's all kinds of backstories on that, including, James Cameron initially didn't want a song for the movie, so James Horner kind of went rogue and took his tune from the theme of the score and went to Will Jennings, who's a lyricist, and they created the song, and then kind of like sort of under the cloak of darkness, total secrecy, went and they cut the song so that James Horner could come back to James Cameron and say like, check this out.
Speaking of your time at Fox, though, Fox also was a studio where they have a lot of really iconic film themes and scores. Is there some other films that particularly are special from your time there?
Sure. Well, in 14 years, one of the cool things about working at Fox is there was this really diverse portfolio of projects, all kinds of movies you could possibly work on, and some more musical than others. But when I think of my time there and the hit list of things that I got to work on, it includes the Ice Age movies, the X-Men movies, Devil Wears Prada, Marley and Me, Walk the Line, Drumline in particular, because that was Dallas Austin, correct? His life story, and he's a music producer, and so it was almost like when we talk about stuff of working here with somebody like Pharrell, like that is like a different type of project, and that had a hit song. Drumline?
Blowing her up with her love.
God, it's amazing you remember that. I wouldn't have remembered that with a gun to my head. So you're stumping me on music. Now I got to stump you on movies.
That was JC Chasez.
That was JC Chasez. You're totally right. I have not thought about that in eons. But thank you for refreshing that memory in my brain.
I love it. And then I will say this just because it is also in the news, but The Devil Wears Prada, what people don't realize about that movie is that really poppy New York sort of percussive theme that it plays throughout it is actually what helps drive a lot of like, when you think of Andy sort of like running across the streets of New York, that's driven by that really great score. Sure. So I'm glad that you worked on that one. I love that.
Well, you want to know something funny about that one, which is very early on in that project, as the kind of built-in music supervisor as part of the Fox music team, the filmmakers and the executives on them, or certain executives on the movie, we were exploring composers for the movie, which is just what you referred to. And Teddy Shapiro, who, has done a ton of great movies, very recently did the Severance theme that kind of took off and became a thing. But I was a big fan of Teddy's, and it was early in the days of his career. And we had just worked on a really goofy movie also at Fox called Dodgeball.
Oh, yeah.
And really, that was the thing he was just coming off of. And I had a hunch that he'd be really great to work with David Frankel and that he'd really be great for the sensibility of Devil Wears Prada. But when I suggested him, and they were like, what's he done? And I said, well, we just worked with him on Dodgeball. And the executives, they kind of looked at me like, if you think the guy who did Dodgeball is going to be right for this movie, you may not understand the sensibility of what we're going for with this elevated, like kind of haute couture, this world that we're in. You're some guy. This is our world. It's not your, I don't, you can kind of tell I'm like,
I get what you're saying when you're talking about the executive class.
But
especially.
I was almost like asked to like step away from the project. And I was like, no, you got to trust me. And he'd also done, at another studio, we did 13 Going on 30, which was a little bit closer to maybe the sensibility, but we had a big debate, and I felt very strong in my convictions. And I've learned throughout my career, although this is much earlier, like when to fall on your sword or die on a hill. And I just was really passionate about Teddy being right for the project. And the compromise we reached was that he would audition for the movie. And so he'd read the script and talk to the filmmakers, and he'd come back with a CD, or a physical thing of just some music that he made just based on that. And not only did he get the gig famously, and now that's the music you're referencing, but the music that he wrote as his audition, those became the themes of the movie. So he was like spot on from the jump. And that was a kind of really sort of proud thing for me also, just to like kind of to get it right in that way. And then really proud of Teddy for delivering. And then he went on to continue with David Frankel on his subsequent movies like Marley and Me and all the ones that came after it.
No, it's a really great pairing. And like I said, you're right, it is like haute couture, but it is Andy bumbling through that world that I think his score really kind of touches on. It's like the off-kilter triangle in that score. I love it.
And the songs too. The Katie Tunstall opening song. That was a big one too. Setting the tone of the movie.
Love that. Love Katie Tunstall. Moving on to our next quote.
Yes.
I'm a father now with responsibilities and a legitimate businessman. I'm developing a delicious line of jams and jellies.
With the straight reading, that sounds like a very serious, heavy movie.
I'm a father now, responsibilities.
Yeah, well, there you go. It's Gru. It's Gru from Despicable Me too.
Yeah. Sorry, Steve Carell. I really do.
I actually thought that was really good.
No! Girl. But no, the Despicable Me too, of course. And God, you can't talk about the legacy of Universal without talking about Despicable Me and the Minions and Happy. I think you've had a hit song for every single one of those movies.
Yeah, well, thanks to Pharrell. It would be nice to say I had a hit song from the, but like Pharrell made, Pharrell's songs, the template that was created with the first Despicable Me, with Pharrell's songs playing a role in the films. Yes, for the Despicable movies, which are not the Minions movies, but very much for the Despicable movies, Pharrell's songs, they've all been amazing, and some have popped later, like Just a Cloud Away popped almost like a decade after the soundtrack that it was on. But it was really cool to come to Universal in 2010 when I did, because it was right around the same time that Chris Meledandri, who I had worked with at Fox, starting on movies going back to the 2D hand-drawn Anastasia at 20th Century Fox, which was one of the first movies as well that I worked on in my early career at Fox. And then I worked on a whole lot of movies with Chris. And then he came here and set up Illumination. And then when I came here, I got a little bit of a reunion with Chris. And the first one out of the gate was Despicable Me.
Nice.
And so a few years later, on the second Despicable Me movie, we got to work with Pharrell and kind of broker a lot of transactions with the filmmakers and all kind of working for what's up on the screen and trying to make the best possible version of the movie. But the spot where Happy goes in the film was kind of now, we can say with a smile on our face, like famously, like a really difficult, challenging thing for Pharrell. He tells the story, and we were there for it, of like how for whatever reason, it was kind of one of the last homework assignments that he had, making songs for the film. And it just was really challenging for him to get it. He was just constantly, he'd show up with something, the filmmakers would consider it, they'd try it in the picture, and it just, just systematically things were not working. And I think it was getting frustrating for Pharrell. And I was kind of the guy who was trying to facilitate and translate and kind of sort of coax him in the right direction. And, part of our job here, my job in the music department is like, we want to, for artists and composers and all the people that we get to work with, we want to provide a big target to hit, right? We like whatever the creative brief is, our job is to set them up for success. And this one was like, now in hindsight, like almost too obvious. It's like there's a sequence in the movie where a notoriously cranky, grumpy guy wakes up, he's in love with a girl, and he's happy. He's literally like, in the brief for this song, you could not have said the word happy more times over and over. Gru's being happy, he's making breakfast, he's making pancakes, and then he's walking through the park and he's interacting with people in an uncharacteristically happy way. And there's a song that we need to kind of score the sequence of Gru being happy. So there was just all these things that Pharrell was trying that were not working. And I think literally not only with a very loud ticking clock and a looming deadline, but after probably, I think, a dozen attempts of trying different songs and really almost running down the clock to the point of like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do if he doesn't show up with the right song? Which was, part of not like a threat, but like, hey, Pharrell, like if we don't, what are you going to do? If we don't get this, maybe we'll license a song from the Temp or something like that. And that probably helped really motivate him even further. Was like, he had to nail this, and he came back with Happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth, because I'm happy. Clap along if you... At the time, it took a second for us to kind of live. All right, this has potential. Let's live with this. Let's try it. Let's see how it fits. Let's see how it works. We sent it over to the animators in Paris. They put it in the movie. And we kind of slowly, but kind of, I'd like to say like the second we heard it, we were like, this is going to be like a, but it was just almost the relief of like, this is going to work really well in the film. And at the time, that's our only job is we're working for the film that's up on the screen. And the song worked in the film and it solved what that sequence needed and it felt good and it worked great and everything. Then later, the song kind of as a standalone thing, independent of the film, long after the movie, that was the movie of the summer that year. And then a few months later.
In the fall, I remember.
In the fall, the song just continued to like feel like there was some traction, there was some unrealized potential, and there was just a spark, and it just kind of went, and it not only became a hit song, or it just was like it was literally a cultural phenomenon.
Oh, I remember the videos, the whole thing.
Yeah,
it's
so
like...
first ever 24-hour music video and all kinds of other stuff that we did working with Pharrell, and at that time working in partnership with Columbia Records to really market and promote the song, and then just we never could have imagined what the song, to Pharrell's credit, for him, it was an amazing time because it was the year that he had Blurred Lines, Get Lucky, and then Happy.
Yeah.
So he had it was a milestone moment for him, but just to be partnered with him and to be part of the kind of the manifestation of that, and then to see Happy kind of take off and become what it became was just unbelievable.
And a testament to Pharrell that those very different songs are like a part of his like same year. That's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I Quit Mr. White.
I Quit Mr. White is a notoriously awesome line from That Thing You Do.
Yeah.
Which I know I've been saying this a lot, but another one of the very first movies I got to work on when I was at Fox. When I started at Fox, That Thing You Do was pretty much just being finished, but I got to be there for a little bit of it. I take no credit, but possibly, in my opinion, the most perfect music movie of all time.
Yeah, from the inception. I know a little bit about that story because I did a couple of interviews with Tom Hanks where he talked about it. And just the fact that like the whole movie is based on this very catchy song. Yeah. And so y'all had to make a catchy song. And in the script, I think they said when y'all first like greenlit it, it just said, catchy song they do this and like everything else was written around it, but you didn't have that.
It was actually a bit of a derby going out to a handful of people. I mean, if the whole, it's all to Tom Hanks's credit. It was his movie, his script, his story, his performance, like his vision for this whole thing, which again, another movie that's just like a love letter to music. But if the whole crux, the whole conceit of the movie is you're going to hear one song over and over and over, it's like, that's the thing you can't mess up.
Yeah.
Right. And so Adam Schlesinger did that song, obviously influenced by all kind of, all areas of pop music, a little bit of the Beatles, a lot of like kind of one-hit wonders from the 60s. And it just was this perfect combination of lyrics and music and production and everything that just most people hopefully can listen to it over and over and over and not get sick of that song. It's just like, it is like a chef's kiss, like a perfect song.
All right. Well, you did so well. What are you talking about?
Thanks. Woo-hoo-hoo. Yeah, thanks. All right. I'm getting like good grades on the test.
Yes, you're getting good grades. And the next one is a 50-50 shot because it's true or false. So
it must be important if you need a second popcorn.
We do. True or false? The flower girls at the wedding in the 1991 movie Father of the Bride were played by the daughters of writer and director Nancy Meyers and Charles Shire. True or false?
It's very true. And when I talked earlier about the first movie that I got to work on, it was Father of the Bride.
Wow.
And so my job was as the assistant to Nancy Meyers and her then partner, Charles Shire, who just passed away, another like may rest in peace. And at the time, their young daughters, Annie and Hallie, they do in a lot of Nancy Meyers movies. They made a cameo appearance as the Flower Girls. They're now grown women.
I was just saying, yeah, definitely.
And I will eternally owe a huge debt of gratitude to Nancy Meyers and Charles Shire for hiring me in the first place and then really kind of giving me a shot. So, beyond the few years that I worked for them after Father of the Bride, they really invested in me. They really taught me a lot. And I kind of owe like the start, the kind of the spark that ignited my career and launched me on my path. Like I owe so much to them. So that's really so cool. Appreciate them doing that for me.
What was the actual job, that first job on the set with Father of the Bride?
On Father of the Bride, I was an assistant, a production assistant, which is sort of like as bottom of the totem pole as you can get. But I mean, it taught me a lot, right? It taught me, like, I think I've learned over the years in the industry that like everyone in some way or another is kind of like a problem solver, right? Mm. And so today, I oversee music. And so I just solve at a high level, I guess I solve music problems. Back then, I had nothing to offer. I was just getting started. But in exchange for access, just to be in the room, I could solve problems like who's going on the coffee run, right? Like this car needs gas, who's taking it to the gas station, who's going to pick up the dry cleaning, or who's going to Xerox this script or whatever. Like, so I could solve those problems. That's how I could make myself, nobody was asking me like, what do you think of the edit of this scene? And should we, yeah. But I got to be in the room. And so that was the exchange, right? That kind of, for me, was why I wanted to work so hard and how the exchange could be equitable at that level. So I knew, and I think this kind of still applies today, that like, you sort of, you start at the bottom and you work your way up. And, there is this expression of like paying your dues. I don't love that expression because it implies that at some point they're paid. And then I don't know what comes after that, like entitlement. And so I don't think that's accurate, but definitely at the beginning, where there might be things that you're doing that aren't the most fun or aren't the most glamorous or aren't the most kind of connected to like the movie making, but you can be of value. You can provide a service. You can solve problems. And so, you're in the trenches, your sleeves are rolled up. And if that means that's how you start paying your dues, like I feel like today I'm still paying my dues. I'm still earning, my gig. And I love that about my job, that I get to show up every day, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and get in the trenches and roll up my sleeves and really like do the work along with everybody else that's doing the real work. So I guess I'm still paying my dues. I don't really ever want them to be fully paid, because then I don't know what comes after that. But,
Facts.
I think that I learned a lot just from being a kind of entry level production assistant on that first movie. And then have that being like the springboard into everything that came after it.
That's so cool. Next question.
Yes.
The song Earned It by The Weeknd is one of only 3 Diamond certified singles written and recorded specifically for a movie. This one was 50 Shades of Grey. True or false?
That is a trick question. It's true and false. It's true that Earned It by The Weeknd for 50 Shades of Grey, that is now a Diamond certified single by the RIAA. It is not one of 3 Diamond certified songs from that were original songs written for movies. I believe today, since the beginning of Diamond certification by the RIAA, which goes back to the 90s, that there are now only 9 songs that are certified Diamond. And we, as a studio, have 4 of them.
I was just going to say, and that's Happy.
Yep.
See You Again with Wiz Khalifa.
And Charlie Puth, yes.
And Charlie Puth.
Earned It.
Earned It. Thank you.
Not on my watch, so I can't take credit, but Lose Yourself from 8 Mile.
That's right. 8 Mile is our movie. I knew that. I don't know why I didn't think of that.
Before my time here.
Yeah.
But a great one.
Can you go ahead and explain what is Diamond certified and how the RIAA does give it out?
Yeah. You've heard of like gold records and platinum records. Those are sales achievements that are certified by the RIAA. They started this Diamond certification a while ago, which is a combination of stats and metrics. So it's sales and it's streaming. It's just consumption calculated a lot of different ways. And I also believe chart position. So it's this algorithm that yields a kind of very kind of stratospheric, above a certain threshold level of success for a particular song. And I think to this day, there aren't even 100, or maybe there's about 100 Diamond certified songs in total. And so 9 of those are songs from soundtracks for movies.
And I just basically call us like, yeah, everybody knows these songs. Like, you know what I mean? Like they really, and globally too.
Yes.
Like that's the other thing. This is not just like a United States hit. This is like Happy is known around the world.
Of course. But as you'd imagine, probably also very high ranking on that list are like Taylor Swift has multiple, The Weeknd has multiple Diamond certified songs. So it's like, you're talking about like the absolute ceiling of success for a song. So we're in good company. We're happy to be recognized at that level.
Especially for films.
Yes, very proud.
Last trivia question. Amy Doherty, the composer of the score for the 2021 DreamWorks film Spirit Untamed, is an alumni of the Universal Composers Initiative. True or false?
That is true. That is a big pride point for us, both the initiative and Amy being the first woman to score a DreamWorks animated feature, which sounds like that would have happened a long time ago, but it happened in 2021. And yes, we started an initiative, which is a first of its kind and still an only of its kind. I wish it wasn't the only of its kind, but it is an only of its kind program in the industry, which is to provide mentorship and advocacy for composers. And we are currently on our 3rd cohort of working with 8 composers in this program that myself and my team are all very invested in and very passionate about.
Yeah, and I think the main reason for this is composition, and especially when you talk about film scores, it's so hard to break in.
Yeah, we want to find composers who are doing it and just need better network, better connection, better insight and understanding and of how to create opportunities. So Michael Abels, who had just done Get Out and, has gone on with Jordan Peele to do his movies and other projects, we reached out to him and said, will you sit with these composers and talk to them just about all the ins and outs of what you deal with? And he's absolutely said yes. And so roundtables starting with people like Michael Abels, and then also business people, agents, studio executives, not just music executives, but other executive filmmakers, people that they could, I guess you could sort of reduce it down to, you put a bunch of composers who are trying to get their careers going in a room with anyone, and they'll say like, how do I get work? It has grown up and it continues to mature now that we're on our third cohort, but it's meaningful for us. I do genuinely believe that it's meaningful for the composers. We have all kinds of stats and success metrics, and one of them is, I believe, 9 of our feature films have been scored by either current or alum members of the initiative, plus, TV programs, DreamWorks animated TV, special projects and things, so almost all of the composers that have come through the initiative have gotten real paying gigs from us.
And there's a connection to our podcast, in fact, to Seen on the Screen and the Composers Program, if you'll tell folks.
The theme song, the theme music for this very Seen on the Screen podcast was yet another special project that we threw at the composers in the initiative. And so for this theme, it was the brief, the direction they were given was to do a riff on the iconic Universal fanfare that you hear before every movie. And so Shirley Song is an amazing composer in the initiative, and she composed the music that you hear for the Seen on the Screen podcast.
Thank you so much, Shirley. And folks can always head on over to Make It Universal, which hosts all of our podcasts and all of our information if they would like to know more. Well, you did amazing. Thank you.
It's a huge relief.
I know.
It's a lot of pressure.
We're not done yet. What's your favorite movie snack?
Popcorn.
Just by itself?
Well, legendary. Salt, no butter.
Oh.
Sometimes that cheesy, shaky thing. What's that? Whatever that is, that chemical that you can put on that it tastes remotely like cheese.
Yeah.
But definitely popcorn.
What's the last show you binged?
The Bear.
That's a good
Literally
one.
just on a long flight back from London, watched almost the entire current season of The Bear, which is a great show. And really, for music supervisors, there's certain things you want to study, kind of great examples of music supervision. The needle drops on that show, very on brand, chef's kiss for The Bear.
What actor or filmmaker will you always show up for?
Well, Tom Hanks, because Tom's on the brain, because we were talking about That Thing You Do, but I could probably, Steven, I'm a company guy, but even without that, Steven Spielberg, hugely influential on me. Christopher Nolan, who's what an honor to be able to have worked on Oppenheimer and currently on the Odyssey. And so that's hard to do a just one, but since we were talking about him, I'll go with Tom Hanks.
That's a good one. Since we're talking about Oppenheimer, can you hear the music? Literally, as a music supervisor, that was probably a great moment for you.
That was, to Ludwig Göransson's credit, who won an Oscar for his really innovative, both him and Christopher Nolan having a vision, and Christopher Nolan infamously using music a certain way, very almost in front of the screen in his movies. And so, very not an obvious way to score that movie, which to their credit, I think is what makes it such an innovative achievement and obviously well recognized and very successful. But yeah, pretty cool.
Dig it. Finally, your favorite classic Universal film?
Schindler's List.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah. I come from a family of Holocaust survivors.
Oh, wow.
And so just the experience of Schindler's List, seeing it with my father, who was born in the Krakow ghetto before it was liquidated, which was depicted in the film, but taking my father, who was very reluctant at the time the movie came out in the 90s, and just seeing where my father was born, how, the time that he was born into, where our family, what we went through, where we come from, and everything. And so deeply personally meaningful to me. So, and I think that's what's cool about movies, is that you make all kinds of movies, you have this diverse portfolio of projects and movies of all shapes and sizes. And inevitably, every project's going to be made for an audience where they can connect to it in a genuine and authentic way. And I think that's what's amazing about movies.
Love that. And a great Steven Spielberg one, obviously.
Absolutely.
Mike, thank you so much for
taking
us on a tour.
This was fun. Is there nothing left in the popcorn buckets?
We're really
empty.
done. But I'll be seeing you at the movies.
For sure.
Established in 2018, the Universal Composers Initiative has grown into a landmark talent experience.
It became a 2-year term with a group of 8 composers where they had a level of access and connection and resources to every part of music making for film that they weren't getting.
We get insights and we learn so much, especially about the hiring process and what they're looking for in a composer.
They will be more connected and more equipped to continue working and just have the push that they need that we can provide to make their time and energy investment in the program worthwhile.
The opportunity to meet people from DreamWorks, Focus Features, and eventually work on prolific projects. And so it's a ridiculous amount of opportunity that you're given.
We selected the best of the best of hundreds of submissions, and now we have opportunities to have them work on different projects across the company.
I've received so much guidance and coaching from industry's top literal superstars.
It has turned out to be the most rewarding experience of my career.
They help fill in some blind spots you might have from your experiences beforehand. So I felt a lot of Universal love.
I could not thank Universal enough for all the support to be able to create these fun, unique stories.
This is what shaping the future of film music sounds like for everyone.